Manipulation doesn't always come loud. It doesn't always look like control. Sometimes, it hides in kindness, in guilt, in clever questions, in silence. And the most dangerous kind of manipulation is the one you don't notice, until it's already shaped how you think, what you say, and what you agree to. If you want to stay sharp, you need to know the early signs. The patterns. The subtle tactics that tell you someone isn't just communicating, they're managing you. Here are 7 clear signs you're being manipulated, whether in a relationship, a conversation, or a negotiation. 1. You feel like you owe them something, but you don't know why. Manipulators create invisible debt. They do you favors you didn't ask for. They go out of their way and then remind you of it later. Or they position themselves as the one who always helps, even if you never needed help. This creates a sense of guilt when you say no. You hesitate, not because their request is fair, but because you feel like you're breaking some unspoken deal. The antidote is simple: ask yourself, did I agree to this exchange? If not, you don't owe anything. Respect isn't bought through guilt. 2. You find yourself explaining things that shouldn't need explaining. Manipulative people have a way of putting you on the defensive, subtly. They raise an eyebrow. They ask a loaded question. They act hurt without saying it directly. And suddenly, you're explaining your schedule, your intentions, your tone of voice, trying to convince them that you meant no harm. That's not communication. That's control. If you're constantly justifying neutral actions, stop. You don't need to defend your right to choose. 3. They shift blame without using blame language. Smart manipulators don't say this is your fault. They say, I just thought we were on the same page, or I didn't think I'd have to remind you, or well, I guess I misunderstood. On the surface, it's polite. Underneath, it plants the idea that you failed. That you missed something. That the tension is because of you. Watch for this pattern. If you always end up feeling like the problem, without direct accusations, you're being slowly conditioned to carry blame that isn't yours. 4. They confuse you with contradictions, but never explain. One day they act warm, the next distant. One conversation is full of support, the next is laced with subtle dismissals. But when you bring it up, they say, everything's fine. Or worse, you're overthinking. This push-pull dynamic keeps you unsure. Unsure people are easier to manage. Easier to shape. If someone's patterns leave you mentally exhausted, emotionally unsure, and full of doubt about your instincts, it's not your imagination. It's a tactic. And it's working, unless you step back and reset your own clarity. 5. They praise you, but only when it's tied to compliance. There's nothing wrong with appreciation. But if compliments always follow agreement, and coldness always follows resistance, it's not praise, it's programming. You're so easy to work with means you didn't push back. Your really understanding means you tolerated something others wouldn't. Notice how your behavior affects their warmth. If your value rises or falls based on how much you yield, you're not being valued. You're being trained. 6. They reframe boundaries as rejection. You say, I need some time for myself, and they say, wow. Okay. You say, I don't feel like going tonight, and they reply, fine. Have fun without me. They don't argue directly. They make you feel guilty for protecting your own space. Over time, you stop setting boundaries, not because you don't want to, but because you've been conditioned to feel selfish when you do. That's manipulation. And the only way to stop it is to accept their discomfort without shrinking back. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to choose. You are allowed to protect your time, even if someone frowns. 7. You leave conversations feeling unclear and a little smaller. This is the most important sign. After you talk to them, especially about something important, you don't feel more connected. You feel a little off. A little disoriented. Like you started with a point, but somehow lost it. Like you agreed to something, but you're not sure why. That fog isn't accidental. Manipulation often works not by pushing hard, but by constantly nudging your internal compass until you stop trusting it. And that's the moment you start needing their approval to feel okay again. These signs don't always appear at once. Some are subtle. Some are masked as care or confusion. But when you see them often, and feel their effect, you need to pause. Not with aggression. Not with panic. But with clarity. Start asking yourself simple questions. Do I feel more like myself after this conversation, or less? Do I feel free to disagree, or careful to avoid friction? Do I feel respected, or just managed? The more honest you are with those answers, the quicker you'll catch manipulation when it happens, and stop it before it shapes you. Because no one controls a man who knows his limits, stands on his word, and doesn't flinch when the pressure rises. You don't have to argue. You don't have to shout. You just have to notice, stay clear, and hold your line. That's how you stay untouchable, without ever becoming hard.